Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. We begin our video with a story from a retail worker and his last day on the job. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. I don't deserve to make minimum wage. Currently, I work for a cable company with a less than pleasant reputation in a physical retail store where we handle any and all cable-related concerns. I put my 2 weeks notice in 2 weeks ago, and tomorrow's my last day. Yay! I have many stories. This one is one of my favorites. Story. So I'm working at another location on this day, and we'd been open for maybe 20 or 30 minutes. Surprisingly, I was in a great mood. The sun was out, and the first few customers I had were also sharing the good fortune of sunlight with me, shooting the proverbial crap and whatnot, and after about 10 minutes of a no customer break, an older gentleman walks in. We, as per the usual for that day, start talking about the weather, and he was really friendly, and I assumed this transaction would be quick and pleasant. I was wrong. I'll refer to this AHAT as Old Man Superior, OMS. After some friendly chit-chat, me. So, what can I do for you today, sir? OMS. Oh, I'd like to pay my bill. Me. Great, no problem. Let me get your billing screen here. Looks like your total is $56.70. Let me take a pause here real quick and touch on the fact that $56 is a hell of a freaking deal for what he had. Normally people pay close to $80 or $90 for the same service as he has, and the average payment I take in a day is $170. So yeah, keep that in mind. OMS. What? Are you effing kidding me? Me. Confused at this point. No sir, unfortunately I'm not. But if it makes you feel better, that price... He then cuts me off. I seem to get cut off a lot. No, that's outrageous. $56? You're robbing me. I'm so sick of you people. There he went. He pulled the you people card. Me. I'm sorry, sir, but as I was trying to say... No, I don't want to hear it. I bet you just went in my account and added crap. I swear. I can assure you, sir, no one went into your account. I don't know who you are and would have no reason to just randomly add something to your services. Plus, I'd get fired. And here comes the best question. How much do you make? Not enough, sir. Good, because if you make anything over $9, you don't deserve it. Hell, you people don't deserve minimum wage. I should have held my tongue, but I didn't. Really, sir? You're saying that I personally don't deserve to make minimum wage? Huh. You didn't hear me say you did now, did you? This isn't a real job. Okay then. What would you say if someone said you don't deserve to make minimum wage? They wouldn't, because I have a real job. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. Please leave, sir. Have a great one. And our second story. Waste my time? Shots fired. I work for a direct lending company in loan origination. This job is almost 100% commission, and getting paid relies heavily on me guiding potential borrowers through the application process and babysitting their app through the funding stage. The money can be great. The only drawback is long hours and a lot of time wasted on absolute crap leads. The leads come from online sources and are weeded out through our junior sales. Basically, low-level, low-skill selling, whose primary job function is to transfer interested parties to us licensed officers. This can lead to what could be considered a minor conflict of interest. The junior's goal is to have as many transfers as possible, resulting in low-quality transfers, people who are either tricked or not that serious and only want market rates and to say bye. Needless to say, some of the juniors send over some junk leads on a constant basis. I'm talking mainly about using deception or dishonesty to trick borrowers into speaking with me. This wastes my time and leads to many unpleasant and pointless conversations. Time is money. After several attempts to remedy this through their department managers, I decided to get even. This is my paycheck you're starting to really F with here. I found out their personal phone numbers using my company directory and sent some inquiries to our lending partners stating they wanted information on refinancing. By some, I mean a lot. And by a lot, I mean every single partner I've ever dealt with in the past. For any reference on how annoying this can turn out to be, go on lowermybills.com and enter in your name and phone number. Within seconds, the calls will start, And they won't stop until you answer every single company that ends up getting your info and asking to have your number taken off the list. LowerMyBills.com is just one of our partners. We have 7 in total. Enjoy changing phone numbers, guys. Be a little more ethical in the future. And our next story. Love me tender. The company with whom I was working decided they were going to kick off a drilling campaign consisting of 6 deep, 5,000-meter plus wells. Since I've been involved in several similar campaigns over the years, the onus fell upon me to take their idea and drive it to fruition. Since this was going to be a multi-million-dollar project, it had to be tendered and vetted through the various local ministries before it was allowed to commence. This required several hundreds of pages of technical jargon, considerable amounts of time, money, and effort, as well as quotes from at least 3 pre-approved drilling companies, for comparison's sake, before being advertised for all and sundry to make their bids. Generally, there was a non-refundable tender fee, usually a percentage of the total, so that everyone concerned wouldn't devote any effort with time wasters, such as small or shady companies with less than adequate resources who try to lowball and win tenders, then farm out the actual work. Trouble was, these were complicated wells consisting of several potentially nasty horizons with H2S, thief zones, heaving shales, multiple casting runs, salt horizons, overpressure, coring operations, and generally unfriendly drilling conditions. The tender was explicitly clear as to the type of rig, casing, scheme, mud system, sampling, logging, and analysis while drilling, ad infinitum. These were all approved by the various ministries, and a baseline comparison for each well was determined to be $28 to $30 million each, given the tender specs. Also, although we're in the Middle East, the lingua franca was noted, all tender offers must be made in English. So the tender was made public, given a drop-dead date, and we waited the obligatory 14 days for the offers to flood in. Since oil and gas exploration has been in a coma for the last few years due to saggy oil prices, there were a fair number of big rigs around the world sitting, stacked, or mothballed. Seems everyone with a static deep rig was slathering over a nice, juicy 6-well, year-plus contract. We received tenders from Russia, China, India, several from the Middle East, even a couple from the US and Canada. It was incumbent upon me to review the tenders and make choices of the 3 best to submit to the ministries for their final go-ahead. The key requirement for these wells is that the rig chosen was registered to at least a 4,500 horsepower top drive system. I'll spare you the technical minutiae as to why, but that was written in stone. No variance allowed. That fact alone scrapped 50% of the tenders as the rigs were less powerful, though they claimed that with aluminum drill pipe and downhole motors, they could do the job just as well. Sorry, Charlie, that dog don't hunt. After poring over the received tenders, we decide there are 3 that fit the bill and are submitted to the ministry for their final approval. Their bids were close, all with a variance of about 5%. They each passed the requirements of the tender, and any one of them would have been a good choice. That being done, we now wait on the final approval of the ministry. A few weeks later, we're called into the ministry for a meeting. Evidently, none of these submitted tenders were approved for one nonsensical reason or another. They took turns berating our company for taking too long, i.e. following ministerial dictates, our apparent lack of rigor, and other such forms of fabricated nastiness. They toss us a document, not in English, and demand we utilize this company in our campaign. Since it's a ministerial dictate, we are basically left with 2 options: tell them to piss off, pack up shop, and hit the road, or do exactly what we're told. We chose the latter. We had the document translated into English, and find the company for which this was written is owned by some shirt-tail relation of one of the recently hired head ministers. It was a cobbled-together drilling company specializing in shallow wells, so it's obvious that they could handle our campaign of deep, hazardous, nasty wells. That's a bit of sarcasm for the cynically impaired. Several times we approached the ministry to get this overturned, citing such trivialities as the fact the drilling company had never drilled any wells close to this level of complexity, hires untrained and inexperienced hands, has an abysmal safety record, and is generally the worst choice for a project of this scope. We were told in no uncertain terms that we have no say in the matter and that the tender will be followed to the letter using nepotism drilling companies' rigs and hands. There's no room for discussion. The tender will be enforced as written and is signed off on by the ministry for the amount quoted in the tender, which was at least 25% greater than the real tender offers we'd procured. We were told not to bother the ministry with the matter any further as they consider it closed, no further changes will be considered. We had the ministry sign off on a codicil to that effect. We signed and started preparation for the campaign. We send the spec sheets off to the drilling company to at least try and salvage some portion of the project. We receive static. Letters, emails, phone calls, and even visits to their offices are all rebuffed. I decide to contact the 3 companies we had originally selected and put them into a holding pattern, citing ministerial difficulties. We continue to get nothing from our selected company for weeks. I have one of my comrades in another nearby country covertly contact them, asking about their rig capacity and capabilities. Turns out the largest rig they have is an old Chinese 1,500 horsepower rig, nowhere near the size, power, nor design needed for our uses. But the ministry says we must use them, and by the terms of the tender they all signed off on, they must provide us a 4,500 horsepower rig with all the deep goodies. Their silence was explained. They were scrambling to try and find a rig they could rent and still keep to the tender. Trouble was, those rigs are scattered to all 4 corners, and virtually every drilling company knows the story. Word travels fast in the patch and refuses to deal with them. Panic sets in for the drilling company as its time-bound, ironclad contract for which they put a 10% surety bounty immediately after tender, around $18 to $20 million, through an international bonding company. With 2 weeks left until the term expires, we suddenly start getting phone calls, emails, and the like from our drilling partners. Can we extend the terms of the tender? Can we drill top holes with a smaller rig and leave the heavy stuff for later? Can we farm out the project to another driller but still remain on the tender? We formulate our answer, and since we were expressly told by the ministry that they figured this was all done and dusted, not to bother them, and the tender is ironclad, our formal answer was, and I quote, no. The tender expires, Nepotism Drilling is out $20 million in bonds and is forced into bankruptcy. All their materials are repossessed. Seems this wasn't the only problem they were having with being overextended. The tender relet, and their base shuttered. The retired head minister takes an unexpected trip to Europe and hasn't been heard from since. We drill with one of our first choices and hit 5 for 6. We would have been a grand slam, but we found a new oil reservoir up hole and it couldn't be counted in the final tally. However, it did open a new field and set off yet another campaign. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.